Thanks, Sanju. Thanks, Kevin, for setting things up in a very positive, regenerative way. Appreciate that. My name is Niran Babalola. I'm the founder of Panvala, and I'm going to talk to you today about collective action for community ownership. So today in this talk, you're going to learn a couple things about how you and I together are going to participate in collective action that accomplishes a few things. Our collective action is going to organize people to make them impossible for middlemen to extract value from. Our collective action is going to put community life at the center of our society, and our collective action is going to deliver Web3's benefits to working class people who typically don't own assets today. That's what you and I are gonna do together. So before I dive into that, a little bit of backstory on what Panvala is. Some of you already know what it is, but really quickly, Panvala is a network of 77 communities right now who work together to drive more resources to community life. Each quarter, those 77 communities receive resources from our shared endowment. That shared endowment is our token supply. So really, each quarter, we're inflating the token supply, distributing it to the 77 communities, and we do that each quarter. You obviously can't do that forever. If you keep inflating it, it doesn't mean anything. So what you don't know yet is how we're going to drive value back into the system. That's what the collective action that you and I are going to participate in is all about. So to me, Web3 is all about community ownership. And that's really a radical thing to say. If that just sounds normal to you, you should realize how big of a deal that is. To me, community ownership is even more radical than decentralization, the thing that brings most people together in the crypto space. With decentralization, there's still plenty of opportunity to build systems where there's basically passive owners extracting value from the users of the system. You're probably familiar with a lot of systems out there that are decentralized, but there's a lot of venture capitalists getting rich off of it. I'm not against venture capital, but to me, that's not community ownership. Community ownership means you care about who's benefiting. The people benefiting should be the people building it, the people using it. Like, the value should go to the community of users at the end of the day. And that's what Web3 is about to me. So if you agree, I'm glad you agree, and recognize that that's a very radical thing to believe. So far in crypto, so far in Web3, there's been two main approaches to achieve community ownership. The first one is what I call the community first approach, where you're starting something brand new and you build it with your community, you build it with the early users, and they're the people who own the system up front. It's community owned from day one. The second approach is exit to community, which has been popularized by Nathan Schneider, and also Gitcoin is really the most popular project that's used this approach so far. This exit to community approach is when you build something in a traditional way, like a normal company, but then you exit to community. You distribute ownership to the users, to the builders, to the point where it is owned by the community. This is what most people are doing today. Both of these approaches are great. We want more and more people to do them. The third approach, though, that I want to introduce to you today is collective action by communities, achieving that community ownership through collective action. And the collective action that, again, you and I are going to participate in together is collective action that shifts value from middlemen in our economy to communities, the communities you and I are part of. That's what we're trying to do together. So why do I think collective action is the most effective approach to achieve community ownership? Well, first of all, it works. It's extremely effective. The example that I use for community ownership is the example that I use for collective action is really the labor movement. And the labor movement got a lot of stuff done. If you're a fan of the 8-hour workday and not having to spend every waking hour working for your boss, collective action got that for you. If you're a fan of the weekend, being able to spend Saturdays and Sundays with your friends and family instead of working yet some more hours for your boss, collective action got that for you. And if you're a fan of retirement benefits, the idea when you're older and are less able to work that somehow your needs will still be provided for, collective action is what got that for you. Collective action is very powerful. It delivers the goods, and that's why I think it's the right approach for us to take. Secondly, with collective action, ownership is not required. So the main story that we're telling ourselves in Web3 is that we're gonna distribute ownership more broadly, and that's what's gonna achieve community ownership. And I think we should try doing that. But I haven't heard a story that resonates with me about how we're gonna distribute ownership so broadly that the people who work in the Amazon warehouses where all of our stuff comes from are gonna own enough of everything that's being built to benefit from it. There might be a way to get there. I just haven't heard that story. but approaches that don't require ownership in the first place, where just the participants in the system get benefits, that's what I think can drive benefits to the people who work in the Amazon warehouses, the people who work everywhere across our economy. That's why I believe collective action is the right approach. And lastly, collective action unites people across communities. I don't have enough time to dive deep into this one, but the labor movement in particular took place in an environment with deep cultural divides, particularly racially. They had to work together to bridge those, and it worked. I think we have a lot of social divides right now, and I would kind of like to bridge them so people don't hate each other anymore. Collective action gets that done. So the approach that I'm going to talk to you about today is what I call the collective action passport. It's basically a playbook for using Web3 to organize collective action. You could probably use it to organize any collective action from the past, anything in the future. It's just a general playbook for collective action. But again, the collective action that I want you and I to participate in is collective action that drives value in our economy, shifts it from middlemen to our communities. So the way this model works is that to earn stamps in your collective action passport, you do an action that helps our collective action. Every time you take an action that contributes to the collective action, you get a stamp in your passport. These stamps in your passport are specific collective action NFTs that we all agree to display in this passport. So if you pull up somebody's address on OpenSea, you see all of their NFTs, you see their Beeples, you see their Bored Apes, you see everything. And the collective action passport, the only ones that show up are the things that are about driving value to communities. That's what this is. So there's two objectives of the collective action that we're organizing in this approach. The first is to increase what you and I individually give to our own communities, out of our own pockets and from our own labor. More value coming from us as individuals to our communities is part of our collective action. But the second objective is to increase what businesses give to our communities. We don't just want the value coming from our own pocket to fund our communities. We want external value to fund our communities too. So the general principle here is that we don't want businesses to just fund any community out there. The only ones that we want them to fund are the ones that you and I are willing to sacrifice ourselves to support. If there's something you want a business to support, but you're not giving to it yourself, that's not part of this. But if you are giving to it yourself, that is part of this. So for that first objective, contributing more out of your own pocket to communities, the way these stamps appear in your passport is as community-specific stamps in your passport. These come from the communities you contribute to. When you contribute to a community, you earn a stamp from your community that is an NFT. And luckily, this isn't new. There's already communities that are doing this. Luckily, we're here in Austin, Texas, where our preeminent city DAO, ATX DAO, issues NFTs when you contribute to the DAO. When you become a member, you get a membership NFT. We want that to show up in your passport. When you contribute to Rainbow Rolls, which is a project that paid off people's medical debt, you get an NFT that represents that you did that. We want that to show up in your passport. And when you contribute to Moonshot Bots, a Gitcoin project that you contribute to that funds public goods across the ecosystem, we want that to show up in your passport. These are the specific kinds of community-oriented NFTs we want to show up in your collective action passport. These are different from a lot of the NFTs that a lot of people are talking about, especially here at South by Southwest. They're talking about the ones that are speculative, the ones that are gonna make you a lot of money. These aren't really those. People don't buy these because they're gonna go up in value. That's not what these are about. They buy them, they earn them because of what they mean, because they wanna contribute to their communities. Secondly, they're community-centric rather than creator-centric. It's not about who created it. It's not about how beautiful it is, although we want them to be beautiful. It's about what they mean. It's about what they mean for your community. But there's a couple things that these don't answer when you're looking at somebody else's passport and you see these three stamps in it. You don't really know everything about what they mean. If you're not in those communities, you don't know how much somebody contributed to earn that stamp. And if you're not in that community, you don't know when they contributed, which is important because for collective action, we need continuous action over time. So there's another kind of stamp that you earn that's called a standardized stamp. And these are stamps that are collectively governed by all the communities participating in this collective action. We want to set standards for what it means to contribute, but each community still gets to mint them on their own. So there are dates on each of these stamps so we know when you contributed, and these are earned at the same time as your community-specific stamps. So you might go to ATX DAO, make your contribution, you get their ATX DAO NFT, but you also get the standardized stamp that meets the criteria for what you've given. So for some examples, imagine different tiers of stamps, bronze, silver, gold, depending on how much you contributed. And then again, dates on the stamps. We want you to contribute in winter. We want you to come back in spring. We want you to come back again in summer because we're participating in a collective action to drive value to communities. Another kind of stamp in here is local stamps, because again, this is all about driving value to communities, and community life thrives in person. There's lots of DAOs that are global, that organize online, they're great, but what really matters is the people in the city that you live in that you can hang out with physically over and over again. There are special stamps that you can earn when you contribute to a community in your own city. Those are governed by the communities in your own city, and you earn them when you contribute to those communities in your own city. So that's the first objective of our collective action, giving more from our own pockets to the communities we care about. The second objective is getting businesses in the economy to fund our communities. And to illustrate how we do that, I'm going to start with an analog example, something that doesn't involve NFTs at all. If some of you have heard of box tops for education. So if you haven't heard of it, really quickly, what it is a marketing program for General Mills cereals. They make cereal, they want parents to buy them. And the way they get parents to buy them is they say, hey, buy our cereal, keep the top of the box, and take the top of the box to the school your kid goes to, and then General Mills is gonna fund your kid's school. Buy our cereal, fund your kid's school. And it works. Instead of just spending more and more money on ads, they spend money on kids to educate them. That's great, that's what we all want. They use their marketing budget to fund things that we care about. And what we're trying to do with this project is generalize this concept beyond just schools to any kind of community, and to digitize it, so instead of collecting physical box tops, you're collecting NFTs with every business you do business with in our economy. That's what this is. So these are sponsored stamps that are purchased by advertisers, businesses in our economy that are already spending money to get customers in the door. That's who's minting these. These are earned by customers the same way you buy a cereal and get a box top. You sign up for Coinbase, you get an NFT. You go shop it anywhere, you get the NFT. That's what this is about. The stamps have a face value, so whatever amount it will fund your community with is on the stamp, and you redeem it with the community of your choice. So really quickly, imagine Coinbase, instead of giving $5 to you when you sign up, wants to say, we'll fund your community with $5 when you sign up. The way they do this is by putting $5 in the shared endowment for the network to mint this $5 sponsored stamp. Then they start telling everybody, hey, if you sign up for a Coinbase account, we'll fund your community with $5. Here's a stamp that'll fund your community. So everyone in every Discord you're a part of says, hey, go sign up for Coinbase. If you haven't yet, they will fund our community with that money, which they're not saying today about the existing $5 that they'll already give you. They already spend their marketing budget in this way. This is more effective because every Discord will talk about this. So you go, you sign up, you get your stamp, and then you take it to the community of your choice. For me, I'm gonna earn that stamp and I'm gonna take it to ATX DAO. You might take it somewhere else. But what that gives my community the ability to do is withdraw the $5 that Coinbase put in and spend it on what they want with their community. Coinbase had no idea which community I wanted to support. They didn't go off and make all these deals with all these different communities. It's through our collective action that we can give every business in the economy the ability to spend their marketing budget in a more effective way by funding our communities instead of making Mark Zuckerberg richer so he can buy more and more of Hawaii. That's what we're trying to shift here. So that's how our collective action is going to shift value from middlemen in our economy to our communities. At the end of the day, what we want to happen is to have a shared endowment for communities that every human being on earth can draw from. And the balance of that endowment is literally the entire advertising spending in our economy. We're gonna shift all of it to fund communities instead. So what are you gonna do with your share of that endowment? Maybe you want to preserve our climate for generations to come. Our collective action is gonna give you the resources to do that. Maybe you want to make housing in our cities affordable for all kinds of people. You're gonna be able to get that done through our collective action. Maybe you wanna make sure that people can get a high quality education without saddling them with crippling debt. Our collective action can deliver those goods. But maybe you're not a do-gooder at all. Maybe you just like parties. Maybe you just like hanging out with your community and having a good time. That's totally okay. That's what community life is all about. It's about spending time with the people you like, doing the things you like. We want to help you fund that too. So we want you to join Panvala. Today we're 77 communities. We want to be thousands of communities. We want to build so large of a network that together through our collective action, we can capture all the value of advertising spending in our economy and make it fund our communities instead. We want to work with you to make that happen, and we think at the end of the day, everybody's going to be a lot happier. Thanks, everybody.